3, 2, 1. Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Neve coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I want to talk about diode bridge dynamite, diode bridge compressors, how I love to use them to add a lot of character, tone, and flavor to the mix. So let's not waste no time. Let's get to listening to a little bit of music and see what we working with today. Come on.
What? Hey. Put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me. I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams. Yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me. I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams. Yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Chico, you can.
Okay, so you guys have an understanding of what it's supposed to sound like today. So if you guys do like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also check out the Patreon where we drop these exclusive gems and courses in the description. So when it comes to something like the Neve 33609, it has a lot of history, a lot of heritage. Usually the compressor that comes to mind first is the Neve 2254. This is like the OG, the big unk, the father pretty much all these compressors. You know, Rupert Neve, he was making them Neve 1073s. His very first consoles had the Neve 2254 as the bus compressor. This was usually used in broadcasting and radio. You know, pretty much in radio and broadcast, you know how they're working. If you can get the signal to be very condensed and then it can travel farther along the radio lines. So they use the Neve 2254 to get some of that dynamic control because the human voice is very dynamic. It can go up and it can go down and people can start talking fast and slow. So it's very interesting how this situation we have here where it's kind of backwards. The compressor comes first, then the limiter. So the compressor is kind of doing like that very first, kind of writing of the vocal, kind of controlling it. And then the limiter is kind of like the helping hand, the buddy in the background to catch any potential overshoots that the compressor part doesn't get. And it's kind of funny because this one is kind of very slow, kind of like a very bumping and grooving jazz type of compressor, I kind of feel like, but it kind of really has a warm characteristic. After that, you have the first bred son, which is the Neve 33609. So the Neve 33609 is kind of like modeling the Neve 2254, but it has a little bit more of a modern twist with more of the bells and whistles. We'll look at that. Then you have the Chandler Zener limiter. They use that in Abbey Rose with the Beatles and all them boys. And the Chandler Zener limiter is also another diode bridge one. A trick that people like to use a lot is they like to use it as a saturator and compressor. If they have the real thing, they might take one channel and run it into the other. Use one for saturation and the other one for compression. And the last one we have is this very interesting hybrid, the Germanium compressor. I know some people like to throw this on their mix bus. It's a FET compressor, which is kind of like a fusion between the diode bridge and 1176, being kind of like the baby mama and everything like that. So they had a JIT and they had the Germanium compressor. Very interesting. You could get the Soft2 plugin and try it out, but that one is also very colored. That's kind of the theme. So let's look at how I like to use something like the Neve 33609. Usually with the Neve 33609, people like to use it for pianos and stuff like that. Anything that has sustain, anything that has long notes. So as I'm hearing a song like this, I hear, I'm paying attention to the tempo. I'm paying attention to the length of the notes and the melody. And I said, what would be the perfect compressor? The Neve 33609. So also I'm paying attention to the 808. You gotta make sure that when you bring in a bus compressor, listen to the 808. That should be the first thing. Make sure that your low end is not acting up. Sometimes these plugins have a little bit of like saturation or maybe a bump in the low end. Maybe not this one specifically, but sometimes if you put on the wrong bus compressor, it can add a little bit of something to an 808 that make the 808 sound completely different. So let's look at how I love to use a Neve 33609 on my master fader. They kind of, just juice up the 808. Pay attention to the 808. Pay attention to the whole way the mix just sounds a little bit more forward, enhances the mid-range.
Put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me. I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams. Yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me. I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams. Yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believing me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Chico, geeking all night out the boot. My girl telling me it ain't cute, but she know I'm gon' do what I do. Said I changed, but a lot of it ain't true. I got a monkey on my back. I got a baddie on my lap. I got a perky in my pocket. When she ain't
Really adds a nice bit of kind of ketchup and mustard on top of the whole mix. Just a little bit of that flavor, not too overpowering. You hear the boom, boom, the pads, the chords start to come a little bit forward. You also hear the 808 starts to become very, very nice and tight. So I love using something like this. And of course, it has a sidechain filter where I can use it to, the sidechain filter is still going to compress everything. But it's just not looking at that 808. So the compressor is still reacting to the groove, but it's not reacting to all that low rumble and everything like that, that super, super sub, kind of makes the compressor work a little bit cleaner. And I use my slow attack right here, letting all the transients come through. And sometimes I use the limiter, sometimes I don't, but the limiter is pretty good, pretty good, especially if you use it on a slow attack, kind of not like modern limiters that are fast attack, fast release. This one is more of a slow attack I picked with a kind of a bumping and groove type of situation. So maybe you don't have to use the compressor. Maybe you don't want to use L2. Maybe you want to just use this as kind of like your limiter before your limiter. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a great way of using it. Okay, another way I love to use something like the diode bridge compressors is the Waves TG mastering chain. Now this is a gem of a plugin, especially the stereo spreader. It knows how to make the doors just open wide. It knows how to make everything just be like, hello, good morning. I love the stereo spreader on this goddamn plugin. It's crazy. You should try it out. And another trick I like to do, I like to use this on my 2-track beat to space out everything. Make a little space for the vocal. Make a little room in the box for the vocal to get in there so I could package it and put a little tape on top. You feel me? And I like to use a little bit of the compressor part, but I'm not compressing the 2-track beat, just the light ratio, and I'm bringing back the mix knob. Just listen to how it adds a little bit of color to the length. Pay attention. I'm gonna bring it in and out, and pay attention to the reverb of especially the hook where it goes bum 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 bum. Kind of like this little plucking type of sound. Pay attention. Listen.
put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me, I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams, yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believing me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Put a 3-5 in the wood. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me, I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams, yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believing me, but I'ma show them with the truth. Chico, geeking all night out the boot. My girl telling me it ain't cute, but she know I'm gon' do what I do. Said I changed, but a lot of it ain't true. I got a monkey.
So you guys should try to use this plugin. I really like it, even sometimes on the master fader as well. It's great. But the most important thing is that it's kind of adding like this saturation, this certain tone to specifically like the reverb of the melody, the blah, 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 the pluck, you know, it kind of brings out that low level detail, the way it kind of just puts a little bit of paint on top of the music, you know, puts a little paint, a little glow in the dark paint, pretty much, you know. So, you know, this whole song kind of has like a nighttime type of drunk in the club type of vibe to it, kind of glow in the dark type of vibe to it. And that's what I really like about the diode bridge compressors, is they add this really warmth that is really kind of like a unique individual character. It helps things stand out in the mix. So now you kind of hear a little bit more separation in between all of the notes, the boom, boom, and the pluck, bam, bam. You feel me? All the little sustain specifically is the word, the length. People love to use these things on a piano. You know, when you're hitting a piano like boom, that long note, sometimes that long ass note could be boring. That bit make your ass want to go to sleep. So sometimes you want to use something like a diode bridge compressor to keep the attention, right? That's what I see it as, something that helps the listener stay, whoa, like it keeps the attention for the sustain, like the length of the note, you know what I mean? It makes you want that next note, you know what I mean? So that's another great way I love to use diode bridge compressors. And the last way I love to use something like a diode bridge compressor is kind of like a way to add a little bit of contrast, a little bit of lo-fi grunge that kind of helps make a scene change, you know, a scene change in the music. So pretty much what's going on right here at this point is everything sounds so clean. Everything sounds so clean, right? I'm kind of telling a story as an engineer. You know, when some people go to the club or they have a night out at the movies, they say, well, this is how it started when I got here, but this is how it ended. And that's kind of what you are as an engineer. You're a narrator, you're a storyteller, you're somebody who's kind of giving a little bit of dialogue to a story, you know, a script that's kind of going on right here. You can control the way the music has a happy ending or a sad ending or whatever, you know? So let's pay attention right here. I use the Vcomp kind of to give like this nasty little lo-fi distortion type of sound, you know, because it sounds kind of old. It kind of sounds like when you have a shirt and the shirt might be white, it might be looking clean, but you ain't washed it in a minute. Now that bit look a little bit dingy, I would say is the word. It's still the same thing, but now it kind of has like this little stain on it. So that's what I wanted with this part right here before the hook comes. I want a little contrast, and it kind of really helped make it sound lo-fi. Of course, I was doing a little bit of that compression, just kind of squeezing, making it sound like it's a little bit being strangled a little bit, the strangler, you know, you feel me? So let's listen to what it sounds like and kind of pay attention to the tonal contrast, though, as, you know, it's going from the end of the verse to the bridge.
She gon' love me as I am, co-regardless on the man. I just hope she understands. I'm on a mission to the band. I ain't always gon' have time for you, but you know I'm the one for you. You got me feeling like them Perkins do. This the last one, girl, I promise you. Put a 3-5 in the wood, might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me, I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams, yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me, but I'ma show them we the truth. Put a 3-5 in the wood, might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me.
So it's a situation where kind of like the hook and everything that's going on, you know, it's all going to the same vocal bus, right? So it's kind of glued because it's still, you know, it's still getting the same type of processing, but it's just that the Vcomp is hitting it before it hits the rest of the chain, you know what I mean? So it's like, this part right here is watching the vocal through a 4K TV, and this part is kind of like watching it through a crappy VHS TV. You know, kind of has a little bit more grit, a little bit nastiness. I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna bring it in and out real quick, but I'm kind of using that contrast. You know what I mean? I'm helping the listener appreciate how clean the vocal is by giving them something that's a little dirty. I'm making them appreciate that nice white bleach shirt by showing them a ketchup stained white shirt. You know what I mean? So now they have a point of reference. Like, damn, you know, like that shirt is really, really clean compared to this shirt, because now I know what clean is and now I know what dirty is. So I'm doing that tonally. And of course I added a little flanger effect, but let me bypass it in and out real quick so you can just pay attention to the quality. Which one sounds like 1080p and which one sounds like 240p? Listen.
It's the last one, girl, I promise you. Put a 3-5 in the wood, might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me, I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams, yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me. Might take a perky or two. Babe, don't be worried about me, I'm good. I'm getting that bread as I should. I'ma just follow my dreams, yeah. Every week I'm in the stool. I know they ain't believe in me, but I'ma show them we the truth. Put a 3-5 in the wood, might take a perky or two.
So it's kind of like a situation where I imagined it, if somebody's drunk and they telling me how they had such a great time at the club, and they're like, damn, you know, by 1 o'clock, I was already throwed, I was already fucked up, I was drunk, I was lit. You feel me? I kind of want this point to be 12 o'clock. You know, I want this to be that specific time in the song where he kind of sounds like he's wavy and he's like, oh, you know, tripping and stuff like that. So I kind of make it more believable by using not only the flanger, but also using the Vcomp to, you know, bring a little bit of that nastiness. An interesting thing about the Vcomp, it's included with the Waves Gold bundle, and it has like a de-esser and all that stuff. But I will talk about this one specifically in another video. So yeah, there will be a time where I break down different uses for it. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a great part of my YouTube family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also check out the Patreon. All right, appreciate you guys now. Peace.